welcome to Think for Yourself Clubhouse. This is a podcast where Dennis Reinhart and I converse about local activities and events. Today's date is February 22nd, although I've been advised not to give the date because this segment will be broadcast later. But events have been changing so quickly that what we say may be out of date by the time this is broadcast. This is Dennis Reinhart sitting next to me. What I'd like to talk about for a few minutes, I don't have any notes, I'll try to do it from memory, is an experience that happened to me yesterday, which would have been the 21st of February. I happened to be on the board of the local senior citizen center, and I attended what's called an area meeting. And this is a meeting of the various counties and the various organizations in the senior citizen biz. And they had a meeting in Chillicothe. The agency is called the Area Agency for the Aged, District 7. And shorthand, they call it AAA7. AAA7 is an umbrella agency encompassing several counties, including Jackson, Benton, Ross County, Southeast Ohio, Scioto County, Pike, and thank you, Aggie. And the idea is for the AAA7 to funnel other government money, state and federal, I think it's mostly federal, although I'm sure there's a state as well, funds for local programs. It's the gears in the wheel, so to speak, which provide the mechanism for getting the federal money and the state money down to the local areas. What happens essentially is that they give the local agency a check, money, and the local agency reports back what they do with it. So that's the funding and the report back mechanism, which is seen, I'm sure, all over the country. And it's basically the actual mechanism for how these things get done. And then the local agency actually spends the money. In our case, and I want to take the case of what we call home delivered meals, which are hot meals delivered to eligible seniors in the rural part of the county. We have vans and we have a big kitchen. The kitchen prepares meals, put the meals in plastic containers, and the drivers take the meals out once a day for year-round so that seniors will have a hot meal. The food is usually big enough that they can make a meal and a half out of it, or 2 meals at a stretch. So really that's what's going on for the seniors in the rural areas. This works in 2 ways. One way, you have a list of seniors who qualify for the program, and they're on the list that get the food, and that's where the drivers go. We also have a waiting list. Those are the seniors that have passed the qualifying questions, and they're eligible to receive the meals, but because we don't have enough money to prepare the meals, they're not getting the meals. So we have the folks who are actually getting the meals, and then we have the folks who are on the waiting list. So what we're constantly trying to do, of course, is to make enough funding and make enough gifts so that we can get more people off the waiting list and onto the eating list, so to speak. So we go to this area aging, and one of the topics that they want to go through is where our local senior citizens agency prides itself, and that is these home delivered meals. And one of the things they did was they asked folks from various counties to report on their experience. So the lady from Pike County gets up and she gives her report, and I can't remember the exact numbers, but it might be something like we had 35 on our active list and maybe 30 on our inactive list. I'm just using make-up numbers. What she related was she was informed by AAA7 that her funding would be cut, possibly cut by 45%. Now this possibly meaning they weren't sure it was going to happen or not going to happen, but Pike County took the view that if we can only be sure of getting 45% funding, then we're going to have to constrict our home delivered meals to 45% of what it was before. So that means they lose over half of their active participants, and they are falling onto the waiting list. Think what this means. This means that people who had been served before are now not being served. So far as we know, they're not getting hot meals. They're scraping by somehow, but they're suffering. This, to me, was highly disturbing. Our technique in Jackson County was, as I was told, we were informed that the funding is uncertain. So we had a very difficult time, and we were going to have to cut back our activities until we called and had another talk with AAA7, and they said, oh, don't worry about it, just keep going at your normal level. So we didn't cut anybody off of our active eating list. We didn't increase our waiting list. So as a result of that, I find out that the funding, they're not exactly sure. They get periodic payments from their funders, federal government. And as you may know, these sources of funding are at least uncertain. And there's some likelihood that they will be cut off. There are some programs in the federal government that have been cut off. So this sets up a whole lot of uncertainty. Pike County reacted to their problem one way. Jackson County reacted to the problem a different way. What we resolved to do in Jackson County was keep doing what we can do, and then if we fall off the funding cliff, we're just going to do some ultra-rapid fundraising and keep that program going through the end of the funding year. So I wanted to relate this story as an honest-to-God problem that we're facing where the rubber meets the road, where the programs that the federal government has, and you see it in black print, actually meets red-blooded, breathing human beings who can suffer. They have less than we do, and it's a good thing to give them a hand up. And it's an evil thing to cut that off just because you have a chainsaw in your hand. So that's kind of my story locally here. And Dennis, I wanted to give you a shot at it.
Yeah, we're trying to make people understand how this kind of touches everybody, or at least somebody that they know. Two things I want to talk about. One of them is the recent dismissals and firing of people that have jobs at federal agencies and in the government and things. Last Thursday, we were having dinner with another couple, my wife and I, Mary Jean, and the lady works at the VA hospital in an administrative job. And so we asked her, I said, how are things going there? What do you think? And she said, we're all concerned. We're all afraid. And she said people have been let go, and they're saying that they are letting people go that are probationary people, which means, they just started. But what you've got to understand, that can be new doctors at the VA, that can't be replaced. Yeah, they're there, because they just got the job. But if they are let go, who's going to replace them? Okay, and my daughter, who lives in New England, she's had several friends that have been let go, and some that work for the National Park Service. One worked at Gettysburg as an archaeologist there, and they all said the same thing, that they had worked at these places for a while, and they were given, great evaluations every year. Outstanding job, did a really great job, And when they were fired, they were told they were fired because their work was not acceptable, that they were not doing a good job. When you have all this paperwork behind that shows that they did do a good job. And I think the way things, you need to cut out waste in government. And there's probably some there. But to go about it this way, something that they've had to do, they had to bring people back that worked in the nuclear agencies, fired them. And then they realized, hey, we don't have anybody that knows how to do this, so we've got to bring them back. And there were several other agencies also. The other thing is the government is considering cutting off access to people to their medications. And some of this doesn't even have to do with a money thing. It's a decision by a few people that decide, hey, people shouldn't have these medications. We deem that they're not safe, but they really don't have any justification for it. And we're talking about things such as antidepressants and things like that. And my daughter was saying that her and her friends were talking to their doctors and stuff, and they were trying to figure out a way, if they have to ration their medication, how are they going to do that? And I think you have to understand that there are people that suffer because of their mental health and because they're dealing with other issues. They don't have that medication. I mean, we're talking about something that's real tragic here. We're talking about people that are extremely depressed. They could be suicidal. And, again, like Bill said, you have to think about this. These are real people who will suffer, whether they're children or whether they are adults. They're real human beings. And we have to think about this. And you think about the jobs that are lost. One last thing there's a ripple effect also. These people can't purchase things anymore. If they're unemployed, there are businesses that depend on servicing the agencies that they work for. They're going to be hurt by that. There are going to be merchants or whoever that have to, sell things to people, and people can't buy them because they don't have a job. And so when you are doing this at such a massive level, tens of thousands of people, it's bound to have a negative impact because it's being done too quickly. It's being done without thought, and it causes chaos and confusion.
Okay, thank you, Dennis. One other item, and then I think we'll probably close it up for this segment, and that is we know we have a Veterans Administration hospital in Chillicothe. And we know that just a couple of years ago, that hospital was slated to close. And it took the efforts, particularly of our Senator Sherrod Brown, who's no longer in his position, to save that VA hospital from closure. Let's keep an eye on that VA hospital. Let's keep an eye on whether that hospital is threatened by what's happening in the federal government. My guess is that will be a problem area for us. And think about what happens if that hospital closes. Hundreds of jobs lost, and thousands of people in our area who will be without care. I heard of a case just this morning where there was a young man who's caught up in the justice system in Jackson County, and he's got a mental illness. He needs hospitalization, been diagnosed as needing hospitalization. Haven't got the space for him, haven't got the personnel that can treat him. So these are the kinds of problems that we're going to run into, real, live human beings who had some form of care before are not going to have that care perhaps tomorrow or the next day. So for these reasons, pay attention to what happens.
I want to add something. The individual that Bill's talking about served 4 tours of duty in Afghanistan for us. He's a veteran, and we owe these people for what they've given us, what they sacrificed for us, and they deserve better treatment than they're getting. And we need to think about that. These are the people that are going to be hurt. A lot of them. The VA hospital closes. This guy, they can't find a place for him, and he needs their help. I mean, he went out there for us, and we just owe these people. That's all.
Bing, bing, bong, bong, bing, bing.
You can't make this stuff up. Conniving and selfish, Musk and Trump. This information was taken from the New York Times, Heather Cox Richardson's Letters from an American, and Reddit. The comments are our own. Elon Musk, the rich immigrant from South Africa, has paid for his position as co-president. After seizing our data and the keys to the United States Treasury, he can now take charge of the checking account. At home, if someone moved in with the old man and made off with financial assets, we would consider it elder abuse.
Some of us have to think about dollars in tens and hundreds and thousands. One fired government worker posted this on Reddit. The thing I can't get over is the richest man in the world directed my effing firing. I make $50,000 a year and work to keep the drinking water safe for everyone. The richest man in the world decided that was an expense too great for the American taxpayer.
Elon Musk's business, SpaceX, benefits from government contracts in the billions of dollars. Musk, however, confuses billions with millions. He claims to have saved $8 billion with a B dollars by canceling a single government contract, not involving any of his own companies, of course. It turns out that the contract was for a project costing $8 million with an M, million dollars, not $8 billion. Musk got the number wrong. What a genius. Or was he lying and boasting that his so-called Department of Government Efficiency had successfully eliminated government waste?
Conniving and selfish perfectly describe Musk and Trump. They have no philosophy, no morals, no empathy. For their own self-interest, they want to destroy our government. Their goal is to control everything they can. No philosophy, no morals, no empathy, no laws, and no constitution will stop them. What members of their party will show up and show some civic courage?
Thank you, Dennis. Thank you. That'll be all.